Okay, so we're recording. Okay, so in the previous session, we had created our ONNX model, and you can see it right there, .onix. Now what we're going to do, and we've done the code here, so we really wouldn't even need this code anymore. Now we are on GitHub, right? And the goal is to deploy our models on GitHub and be able to see them. We're going to take advantage of, GitHub has done this amazing thing of letting us create our own little websites on their platform. So that's really great. So you can go, I'm using deploy to production, right? So I'm going to go to that, and then section one quality, which is you guys. And so we're going to build everything here, okay? So obviously, we're going to be deploying two things, right? We're going to be deploying NN models and then XGBoost models. So it probably makes sense to create two additional folders. Okay, so I'm going to create a new folder just for the first part that we're doing right now is NN. So I'm going to go ahead and click add file. Once again, I'm going to create a new file. And now I'm going to say NN and then the README, right? So the README is so that you can inform of what's the content in here. So then you can say deployed PyTorch model. Okay, model for wine quality. It's anything you want it to be here. All right, so that's it. So you deploy the file. You can hit commit changes again. All right, and now as you can see, we have our structure. So I'm assuming a lot of you have taken at least one web development class at some point in your life, right? And so I'm not gonna explain all this. I'm just assuming you guys know, and we're gonna go over the code, okay? So again, I'll repeat, we're in section 1, NN, and now here, we're gonna add our files. So the first one that makes sense to add is actually our ONNX model, right? So we're just gonna read that from our desktop. So we can go ahead and click on add file again, upload files, choose your files, and then we're gonna look on the desktop. You guys are section 1, and I think it's in data. And then we're just gonna look for our ONNX model, which is not, no, there it is. Here it is, right? .onix, click open, and hit commit. And we've loaded our ONNX model. So it takes us back to the default folder. So click on deploy again, section 1, NN, and there it is. That's it. So that's our ONNX model. Now we're gonna build the interface for basically the web form, right? So we're gonna need an index file, an index.html file, and a .js file. You can also add like a .css file if you want, right? I mean, if you're good at that. What I'm gonna do here is I'm actually just gonna copy my CSS from my GitHub. So I'm gonna open up the GitHub yet again. Go to GitHub. PyTorch. And all right, so this is the index. We're going to create those two files, but I really just want to copy all of this so I don't have to type it up. And then I'm going to explain what everything is. Okay, it's just easier. Guys, did you see where I got this from? Okay, so now I'm back in your folder. So we're going to need to create two files. The first one is the index.html, which should be a pretty straightforward file to create. Just click add file, create new file, and then just do index.html. Okay, and then here, paste the code that I just got. Any questions on this one? Questions? All right. So hit commit. And that's it. So now we are in section 1, wine quality, and then we've got our index.html and our .onix file. Now all that we need is the .js file. That one is very detailed, okay? So we're gonna build that one together. But before I do that, let's explain the index.html file a little bit, and we may need to make some changes. All right, so as you guys know, with HTML, you got tags, HTML, head, body, right? So you can see those are there. Here's the HTML tag. Then this is the head section, and you can see it goes until here, right? Head. So that's the head section. Okay, right there. Okay, so what goes in the head section? Very important. This is since we're using JavaScript, right? We need to provide, if you're familiar with maybe jQuery or something like that, this is similar. It's a framework for supporting ONNX, okay? So you can see here, we're invoking ONNX min.js, okay? When we deployed XGBoost, instead of this, it's going to say ONNX runtime or something like that, okay? So that's, okay, so this needs to be in there so that we can actually have the functions needed to interact with ONNX. The second line here is just a JavaScript that we're going to create ourselves, our index.js file, all right? So this is how we import that in, and we need to create that still. This is just your CSS. I just have some very basic CSS in, okay? And then after that, there's basically 3 things in the body section. So this is the body section, as you can see, okay? I do have a little heading, just like wine quality NN. You can do whatever you want, but there's really 3 important things that you need to have in here. This div, which contains the text boxes, okay? This div contains the text boxes. This div that contains the button, right? And then this div that contains where we're going to display the results. Does that make sense? So we have text boxes, we have a button for running the JavaScript, and then we have a place where we show the results, okay? So let's take a look at the text boxes section. As you can see, it's very simple. I have 11 input tags in here. They're basically text boxes. Exactly, for the 11 inputs. So remember, this is important, right? As we were predicting wine quality, we would give it a vector of 11 inputs, right? And that would give us 1 output. So that's what this is. This is how we collect our 11 inputs. So X1, X2, all the way to X11, obviously you should probably go back to the data set, right, on the Jupyter and figure out what X1 is, what X2, so that it's easier to insert the correct values in there. Got it? I also, if you notice, put in some default values just so that I don't have to type in too much. These are not actually the values for the wine quality data. They're just random numbers, but you should probably use default values for the wine quality data. Does this make sense, guys? Are there any questions on the 11 text boxes that we are using? Nope. One important thing, make sure you give them a name, because we may need to reference them, get element by ID, something like that. And so you do want to have specific names for these text boxes. All right, the next section, as you can see, is just the button. It's just, it's yellow. It's a button. And then on click, you will invoke this function run example, which is the function that we're going to add to our index.js file, basically. Does that make sense? Okay. All right, that's the one that's going to do all the heavy lifting, right, of ONNX. Okay, so very important. And then finally, as you can see here, I have this last div over here, which it really what it does have is this. It's a div called predictions. So I'm also going to get element by ID of predictions. And once I have it, I'm going to insert the result in there and display. So you want to show your result, basically. Got it? So this is one way that you can deploy machine learning. If you ever need to make machine learning from scratch on website, let's say you needed to implement like KNN from scratch for some reason, another approach is to use PyScript. PyScript is a way to write Python that runs on the browser, right? It's just another approach. But here we're doing this approach, which is a, when you just create the model as a file and then, basically that's it. So this is it. Okay. Any questions on the index.html file? No questions? All right, perfect. So now let's go ahead and do the next file, which is the index.js file. Okay, so the index.js file is the file that will need to invoke the ONNX model, run it with the input data, and get the output. Okay, so we're gonna do the same thing as before, add file, create new file. This is gonna be index.js. And this one I'm going to write from scratch, given that's a little bit more detailed, basically. So all it needs is one function. We're gonna do an asynchronous function, run example. So I'm gonna do async function run example, parentheses, open parentheses, close parentheses, then open curly bracket, and then close curly bracket. So just with this, I'm going to hit commit just so that, my changes are saving. Okay. And I have my file there. Got it? Everyone with me? Now, by default, your website will not work in GitHub until you change a little bit of the settings to enable GitHub Pages. GitHub Pages is actually the thing that allows you to deploy websites on GitHub. Okay, so we're going to do that. We are in section 1, wine quality, NN. So now go to settings. Okay, here, this button here, click on it. And here you will see down here, there's a little link called Pages, right? So click on Pages in the left-hand side here in the middle. And then now, as you can see, I've already, for this repo, I already deployed it because, I did it in the previous class. So you guys, when you look at this, you won't see this link probably, okay? So what you need to do is, it's very easy. You're just gonna look here, click on this tab. Yeah. You have upgrade. In Pages, did you click Pages? Huh? You see this, right? Yeah. Yeah. Yes, actually, it only deploys from public. So your repos need to be public to deploy websites. That's a good in the free account. So for those of you that have it set up as public, you see this, right? Yeah. So please just change it to public, guys. In settings probably, or in settings in general. Yeah, in the danger zone. So be careful in the danger zone that you don't delete your repo. But the first one says change repository visibility. The repository is currently, and I guess for you guys it says private, so just change it to public, please. Yeah, it's one of those features that because you're not paying, they're limiting you, so you cannot deploy from private. Okay, so I assume everyone now has fixed that. So let's go ahead again to pages over here. And then you won't see this because I already deployed it, but you should see build and deployment. Yes? Okay. So it's very straightforward. I'll click on this one, and I believe it's just deploy from a branch. So leave that set or set it. And then here, click on this branch and click on this and just click main. Okay? Select main there. And then this button, root, you can leave this as root. And then this button should be an enabled for you. Save. So just click save. And that's it. You don't have to do anything else. Click on save. And then it takes about 3 minutes probably for this to be generated. They're gonna give you a URL basically. GitHub will. So the URL basically will be https:// your username, whatever you use for GitHub, then .github.io/ and then the name of the repo where you're deploying. Does that make sense, guys? And that's it. You can, if you want to go on like GoDaddy or one of those and get a domain, you can, and then you can attach that domain to this. Cost about $10 to get a very cheap domain, a .net or something. And then you can deploy your own website from GitHub, and they'll be more than happy to host for free. Okay, so that's kind of you know, I mean, if you want to do that, that's entirely up to you. All right, so anyway, hopefully some of you are starting to get those URLs. Yes? No? Jacob, you got a URL? Yes? You got it? All right, good, great. So once you have a URL, then what I would recommend is in the README, put in the URL so you don't have to type it every time, okay? So remember, it's gonna look like this. So now we're gonna go back to our main menu. I'm using PyTorch. You should be in your own repo. Deploy to production. And I'm just gonna copy from the previous class. You can see that this is the URL basically. So I'm just gonna copy the whole thing. And that way it's easy to change. So I'm gonna do Control copy, hit cancel here. Now we go to your own section 1, wine quality. And then, okay, and in here, it's a good place to add your URL so that you can just easily click on it. So it'll be this, but of course, for you guys, it's, you know, you got to make sure you got the path correct. Does that make sense? So notice for, you know, I'm going to change the path here to be section 1. Oh, not there. Sorry. Here. Section 1, wine quality. That's it. Do you see that? So it's basically whatever Pages gave you for this part, and then the repo and the exact path that takes you to the index.html file. You don't even have to type in index.html if you notice. If you have an index.html, it'll just grab that. Okay? So now go ahead and commit. Commit again. All right. So now maybe it's already available. Since we had already created the HTML, which had 10 text boxes, 1 button, you know, we should be able to see that, right? Once it's deployed. So usually it takes between 3 and 10 minutes for any change that you make to take effect, okay, on your website. So usually for me, it takes like 10 minutes for some reason. All right, so click on deploy to production, your repo, NN, and now if you click on this, hopefully it'll display the website. So I'm going to click on this, and there it is. And this is what you guys should have as well. Any questions? All right, so here is where you guys would enter values for the wine quality data. So that should be intuitive and make sense. And then now we click on run. And of course, nothing happens because we've created the function, but there's nothing in it so far, right? So that's where we need to go now. We need to go back to the .js file. And we need to add code in there so that it'll take these 11 inputs and run them through the ONNX model and then give us our output. And it is that simple. Any questions? Everyone with me? All right, great. So now we've done this. We've deployed our page. Great. So now we can go back to, here. Let's go to NN. And now we're going to focus on the index.js file. Okay, so as you can see, we set up a little bit of the function, but we need to still add the content. So click on the pencil here. And we're just going to add our code and then commit our changes. So what do we need to do? We're going to need to create a variable. So let's do var x equal, and then it's just empty currently. And then we're just going to add our values from the text boxes into this x. Okay, that's it. So that's the first thing. So this is pure JavaScript. So obviously, for those of you that are really good at JavaScript, you know you can do lots of things, jQuery, all that. So I leave it to your own abilities. But here we're going to do, I'm just going to grab the values from the text boxes using document.get element by ID. And then I'm going to, I think the name is box 1 for the first one. And then we just say dot value semicolon. And that's it. That's how we grab our values from text boxes into our JavaScript. So I'm just going to copy paste all of this. Okay. So we need 11 of these. That's 6. So we need 5 more. Okay. So now, of course, we need to change the values. So this is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Huh. Why do I have my math is wrong? 9. Okay, so I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Did I? Oh, this one, yeah. Thank you. 8, 9. But I am no, okay, I'm good. Yeah. All right, there you go. Yeah. All right, good. So I do have them. Now we need to grab the boxes. So it's box 1, box 2, box 3, box 4, box 5, box 6, box 7, box 8, box 9, box 10, box 11. Right? Got it? So that's how we get all of our values from our text boxes. And now we need to actually, this is where we're going to use now the ONNX.js file, because we need to take this and convert it into ONNX data structures, okay, so that they can fit nicely into our model. So we're going to go ahead and do let tensor x equal to new ONNX. So remember, this is coming from that .js file in the index.html. And if you notice, we're just converting it to a tensor. We're going to take x, which is where our data is. We're going to say that we want the data type to be float 32, which is consistent with what we were doing in the Jupyter notebook. And then we specify the array, which is 1, or the tensor, sorry, 1, 11. Got it? This is just basically converting it to ONNX. All right. Add a semicolon here. Then we're going to do a session, which is basically the variable that's going to interface with the ONNX model. Okay, so we're going to do let session, and that's going to be new ONNX dot inference session, semicolon. And now we're going to load our model, right? So we're going to say await session dot load model, uppercase M here. And we are going to basically plug in the name of our model. So for that, I'm going to just see if I can copy this. Actually, I don't want to do that. Let's do it here. There we go. So that's the name. So I'm just going to plug it in here. There we go. So I've got my name. Got it, guys? This is how the file is already there, right? So you can just add it in. It's already on the repo. Now, what do? We invoke, we're going to create a new variable, output map. Oops, sorry. Output map equal await. And then we're going to say session. Remember that session now holds the model, right? The model is already like in session. So we can just say session dot run. And what do we run? We run the tensor x because that contains the 11 inputs. All right, so we just need to put it in a specific format, which is it expects it as a type of in square brackets. So I'm going to do tensor x. You see that? So this is where the values in the text boxes go into the model, and the model here basically does the prediction. So now we're going to do let output data. No, that's wrong. Output data. And that's going to be output map, because output map is still an ONNX tensor. So we're going to say get, and we know already the name of it because we defined that in the Jupyter. So we can just say output 1, just like that. Got it? And that should be it as far as ONNX. And now what do? We want to display our results. So what does that mean? We need to grab the div where we want to display our results. Let me commit this. It changes. Okay. And go back to index.js. So our data is there. And then now we just take that result and we're going to display it on our div. So I'm going to do let predictions equal document document dot get element by ID. And the name of the div was predictions, I believe. So predictions. So we grab the div. Now we have it in our JavaScript code. So now we can proceed to just display the results. I want to display them in a nice way, so I'm going to use a table. Okay, but you could just display it however you want. But I just want it to be more presentable. So I'm going to do predictions dot inner HTML, just like that. And I'm going to assign to this my HTML code. So for this, you use the tilde. So that's on the upper left-hand corner of your keyboard. You have this, this character. So I'm going to zoom in, and you can see it looks like that. I think it's called tilde or something. Or backtick or something. Yeah. There you go. So we're going to need 2 of those, right? And then a semicolon. So you can see that. Okay. So you can add, a couple of enters here, because this inside here, we're going to add the HTML code that we want. Okay. So I'm going to add, for instance, just for presentation, I think this is called the horizontal rule, right? Just a nice little line. And then I'm going to say got an output tensor with value, colon, just to show some data. I'm going to add a BR tag, which is a break line, so I can, in the next line, add the results. I want to use a table, so then I'm going to create table, just like that. Close table, just like that. Oops. Just like that. And then in here, I'm going to add a row with 1 table data, right? So I'm going to say TR, yeah. And then in here, 2 table data, one for like heading and then the result, right? So I'm going to do table data. And then what is this supposed to be? It's supposed to be the rating of wine quality, right? So that's the rating of wine quality. And then I'm going to add, and we're almost done. The last part of it is the actual values, table data. Now, let's say that for some reason you're getting like multiple values from multiple models and you want to do some additional calculations, then you can pretty much just give it an ID, and then you can use this as a variable on your website, basically, for additional processing. So I'm going to give it a name like, table data 0 or something. It's just in case you want to do that. Let's close table data. And then now here, we're going to simply display our result. So I'm going to do $, open and close curly brackets. And then in here, I'm going to take my results, which are in here, right? You guys remember that what the ONNX model predicted is stored currently in here. So I'm going to go in here and say output data. Remember, this is still an ONNX tensor. So then you're going to say it's got a parameter called data. And then from it, we grab the first one. And then we can change or format it by saying something like toFixed2. And that just means that it's going to have 2 decimal values. So it'll be like 1.00, 2.00, something like that. Does that make sense, guys? And that is it. We are done. So if I didn't make any mistakes or typos, hit commit. Unfortunately for this part, it does take about 10 minutes, at least for me, for the changes to take effect on GitHub. But for you guys, it might be faster. So what you would do now is go here, click on the link, right? Because that takes you to your website. You can refresh and then, give it about 10 minutes at most, probably. And then once 10 minutes have passed, if there are no errors, when you click run, you will get a value here in inference. And then what I suggest is change these numbers to other numbers and just hit run, and it should give you a different value. Obviously, the model we deployed was not the most accurate. So, having an accurate model here would be good in case you want to compare it to actual samples from the test set. That's it. This concludes the first part of ONNX for today, which is deploying a PyTorch model to the web using ONNX and GitHub. Any questions? Make sense? All right. So obviously, before I move on, the thing I want to make sure is that we didn't make any mistakes in the code and that it runs, right? So I'm trying to, but we really have to wait until GitHub makes it available. So if you guys can refresh your own page and click the button, if you do see results, let me know. I'm just double checking the code itself. I think the code is correct. Yeah, still nothing for me. Nothing for you guys either. Still, yeah. Yeah, it's like I don't know why, but for the JavaScript part, once you add JavaScript, there's like a 10-minute delay. You got an error. Oh, okay. Does it say where? Line 6, oh, which file? The JS file? Okay. So here you think in the boxes? Or this line here? What does the error say? Let me take a look. Are you all getting the same error? So maybe we made a mistake. Well, one thing you want to check is that in the index.html that we use the same names. Because I look at the names box 1, box 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. It sounds like the tensor of size 11 is not getting the data at once. Okay. Fresh. Yeah, it still doesn't work for me. Still nothing? Okay, all right, I'm gonna add something. I'm gonna like define a data type and a size for this variable X. Let's see if that fixes it. Yeah. Oh, it works for you, Lucas? Oh, okay. So then maybe maybe it's your index.html file. Yeah, so it generated, change the values. Change like the big one at the bottom. One. It should change it. How about the rest of you? Huh? Oh, okay. So let me see. This is what I was saying. So unfortunately, there's a bit of a delay here. Sure is taking a long time. So I updated this 6 minutes ago. So this is where, so when it gets to 10 minutes, I bet it's gonna work.
In line 26,
Uh-huh.
the closing tag for the HR, it was set to BR. Do you think that might have been the issue?
This one here, hold on. Line of the JS file?
Yeah.
26.
28 for you.
Right, so oh yeah, but this is a horizontal rule, and this is a break line, so it's 2 tags. That should be okay. Huh? You got it to run? Okay. Can you try, does it generate a value, the table with a value? Can you change some of the inputs on the text boxes and get a different value?
So I could do it once, and then I can refresh the page.
It shouldn't be. I mean, it should work because it's an asynchronous function, so you wouldn't need to refresh, I don't think. It does change. Okay, good. Yeah. So the reason is what we would want to do is take from the test set one row of 11 inputs and the output and match it, right? You want to do that. But because if you remember my model, I only did like 80 epochs, right? 100 epochs. So it's probably not very good anyway. But once we have a really good model, we can definitely compare it. So yeah, so as you can see, if I'm in here, I'm in this, and then 8 minutes ago, yeah, index. So maybe now it works. Nope. Have to wait 10 minutes. Or yeah, it usually works at 10. For what purpose? But I have nothing yet. It just doesn't work for me. I'm not, so you want to see if I'm getting the error, or you want to, it's just not running for me yet, so it's a problem. So that's, I'm at 9 minutes now, so I'm gonna click on this, maybe it'll work. Nope, still nothing. Oh, you're still not generating, you're saying. Well, you should wait until you generate something. All right, 10 minutes, right? So hopefully now. Nope. Huh. So then you think it's that I have an error, maybe? Oh, there it is. So mine works now. So now mine's working. You see, it's generating really bad value here. But if you change these to like 1, it changed. As you remember, this is what I was saying. Obviously, it's predicting very poorly, but that's because you need to run all the epochs, get a good R-square of at least 0.40, and then it's going to be closer to the actual value. But what's important right now is that if I do change values here, it should change. It changed there. So you see that to 2.29, a little bit closer. And that's it. To me, I would say it's working. Okay. With XGBoost, because it runs pretty quickly, we'll have a much better model to deploy. So some of you that were in 0.78 and R-square, you can actually compare it to the test set. Got it? Guys, so that's it. This is how you deploy PyTorch models to the web using GitHub and ONNX. This is available. And now you have AI at your fingertips. All right, good. So yeah, that completes the PyTorch and ONNX portion. Now we're going to switch gears to the XGBoost and ONNX runtime, but it'll be very similar to this. Okay. All right, so I'm going to stop this video and start a new one just for that part. So I'm going to go ahead and hit stop.